Okay. Oh, all right, fellas. So it has taken us long, long, long enough to get on this Facebook Live broadcast. I know the people are waiting on this great conversation that we're about to have. There is so much happening. We have discussed so much, even behind the scenes, and getting prepared for this renewed mind show. I'm so excited. I'm so hyped up, even right now in my own spirit, man, because I got some amazing African American men on this live that are about to really go in deep when it comes to talking about mental health with the African American male, when it comes to talking about different situations that they face, many different situations that they've encountered on a day-to-day basis, or things that they've even had fears of, um, with what is happening in 2020 in our society, let alone not only 2020, but for the decades that we've had, that we've passed, things that have occurred in our lives. Now, for them to be able to come and talk to you from a male's perspective. And so, as we're sitting here now, we've actually come from different, and you can go ahead and play it, Dejan, but actually have them coming from different, just keep it a little low for me, from different backgrounds, and each one of them, they don't know each other, but as we got on and we were preparing, is as if we all kind of know each other and have a background from each other, and this was so amazing because I'm like, wow, this is awesome that we were able to talk on this level and this magnitude about some of the things that each one of them have experienced on their own, and to still be able to come to an agreement on some things that they really needed to discuss. And first and foremost, African American men even having a discussion period, that kind of is one of the main things that we needed to make sure that we could have. You could turn it off, Dejan.
All right, just making sure. I don't know how loud you wanted it.
So I told Dejan, I was like, and you have three awesome, amazing, and you have Dejan talk. He's actually awesome. He's from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he is a speaker. He speaks at different levels to different environments. Turn it So Dejan speaks to many different people on different levels. He's able to really go into different areas and different arenas and have conversations that many don't want to discuss. And so then you have not only Dejan talks from Fort Lauderdale, you have Emorja Roberson. Amen. Come on, my cousin. He's an awesome. Come on. So he is an awesome singer. If any one of you know him, you've seen him either at Notre Dame, represent Notre Dame University, or either you've seen him on the amazing show Sunday's Best. Hey.
Hey.
And we got the amazing Corey right now. Corey is also here with us, and Corey is from Texas. Amen. Come on, Corey. You represent Texas. And Corey is a state agent. He actually is one of those that are, he don't play the radio when it comes to making sure that you understand how to get this property, how to flip it. He's one of the realest you will know in Texas state that can really get the job done. And so we got Corey on board with us, and I'm just excited and I'm ready for this conversation. I mean, like I said, we were having conversations behind the scene, like, all right, now get this live going, that were very interesting. And I think that we as a community, first and foremost, we don't really get a chance to really chime or have these conversations that really draw our attention until we get to situations that we're facing now, with the different people that have died. But I don't want to step too far ahead of myself. So I want to take a step back with the conversation that we're having right now. You may actually, and also I want to tell you, make sure that you go to YouTube and check out the YouTube channel later, so you'll get to see some of the behind the scenes. But what I will say is back to what I was saying, that you have some of these men that they were talking about some things that really hit home for me. And one of the things we don't talk about is this mindset in the Black men in the African American community. So I'm gonna step back because I'm gonna allow each one of them to start introducing themselves. And what better way to start off than I'm gonna let you start off with Dejan. Come on, Dejan, start off.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? The name is Dejan Talks. I'm the proud owner of Blue Light Consulting Services, which is a consulting firm dedicated to the small black business owner that helps us leverage things like business model canvas and design thinking to help you grow your businesses to become the next Bill Gates or whoever you're trying to be. When I'm not doing that, I'm heavily into social justice reform. I go into the prison system and I teach entrepreneurship to men and women coming out of the prison system 3 years before they get released. So I actually go into the prison, teach them entrepreneurship, help them start businesses before they transition out. And I'm a motivational speaker. That's what a lot of people want to call me. But I'm just a solution to the problem for the 16-year-old kid that I wish I had. So everything. I'm sorry.
No, I said, come on. My bad.
Oh yeah. So now you're fine. You're fine. So pretty much everything that that's combined in me, whether I'm preaching the word of God or I'm speaking to the youth or I'm going into the prison or I'm teaching you business, everything that I do, it just revolves around when I was 16, the things that I didn't have in my community, the men that were not there in my community, the people that were not there in the times that I needed. I try to be that catalyst. I try to be that solution for those people. And a life lived selfishly without giving back to other people is not a life worth living. So I live unselfish. I'm a servant, and I just try to give the best that I have to my community. And that's who I am.
It. Come on. And I'm excited about that. One thing I didn't mention about each one of these brothers is each one of them are God-fearing men. Amen. Come on. And so I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna let Corey come forward. Go ahead, Corey. Give us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. I am a real estate investor. I'm not an agent, but I am an investor. And so I work with people every day people that are in situations where they probably never thought they would be, or definitely don't want to be. Try to help them keep their house, help them keep staying in homes, help them just move through those real estate issues. I have a large singles group that we the agenda for that group is it's called the I've Got a Love Jones. And what we do is we intentionally try to work with other singles so we can date in a godly fashion, in a intentional fashion, so that we can understand each other better. We have deep conversations with each other between the sexes to understand each other better. It's just a dope platform for us to connect. I've been in Dallas 10 years, actually today, literally today.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, man, that's pretty much me. I'm a lover of people. I am a go-getter. I'm the guy that, I envision something and, I'm going to immediately integrate it. I'm going to start it. I work with a lot of other entrepreneurs. I office out of an entrepreneurial center. So do a lot in the community to help young people connect with each other in a very intentional manner. So.
Awesome, man.
Right. That's awesome. Now we have Mr. Emorja. Come on, Emorja, give us some about yourself.
All right, so I live here in South Bend, Indiana. I grew up in Phoenix Springs, Florida, born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but went to University of North Florida, got my bachelor there, moved to South Bend in 2015, as a matter of fact. Got my master's from the University of Notre Dame, Master of Sacred Music and Vocal Performance. First African-American to graduate with a degree in voice. The first African-American right now to be in the doctoral program, especially at that prestigious university. My focus there is to expose them to more of the Black church experience, because it is a sacred music department that is ecumenical. There is no way you can have a sacred music department without having the Black church experience. So what I do is I'm the bridge between two communities. I'm from the community, of course, that always sang gospel in church. I'm from the Black community, but I'm also part of the trained community that I've learned how to navigate in, which is the predominantly classical community, predominantly white. So being the bridge between those two is what my job is at this university, making sure that these groups work together as it relates to music, but also just as it relates to just regular interactions, period. Because, of course, with the Black community, and we'll get into this later, a lot of stuff is based upon feeling, and a lot of things are emotionally driven, but it's also out of an experience. So I take that experience that we have and teach people about it, although they may not have the same experience, but they can appreciate what came out of the experience. So that's what my focus is while I am at Notre Dame.
Awesome.
All right, that's good. So we have an amazing panel here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you paid attention, but we got men from different amazing backgrounds that want to talk about our issues that we're having in this African American community. First and foremost, I think we don't discuss mental health enough. And mental health is one of the greatest issues that we have. So to start this conversation off, I want to ask each of you brothers, and you can, whoever wants to chime in first, you can go. Do you think that mental health is something that we need to make sure to talk or discuss on as we are having day-to-day life on right now in the African American community?
Certainly. If anything, there's this stigma when it comes down to African American men. I'll just speak to that particular portion of it, but when it comes down to being vulnerable, it could be a problem. And we sometimes think that asking for help is a sign of weakness, and we sometimes don't want to do that because of what people may think about us. Now, of course, generations are different. This generation now may be more likely to go see a therapist. They may be more willing to talk about their feelings, whereas the generation before, maybe like my father and grandfather, who I have never met, but that generation is more so along the lines of, working, coming home, going to work. And they may not be as expressive, but they show their love through the work they do. So that plays upon, we can even go to even discuss the lyrics in hip hop, how that even plays a part as well too, and how that goes to a broader community. But there are some mental health aspects that we do need to make sure that we pay attention to before they continue to be generational curses that we pass down to our offspring.
That's good. Anybody else want to chime in after him?
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in on that one. Simply for the simple fact that why it's extremely important to the Black community in particular is because when you look at our outlets, they limit us to only really two outlets for us to express our anger or emotions. Either you're going to be an entertainer or you're going to be an athlete, right? And then we've always seen the outcome of that because we were never taught how to challenge that, how to express it. Little Black boys would shut up, man up, figure it out, right? If you grew up in the church community, keep it in the house. Don't talk about it. If you grew up in the island community like me, in the island community, we're so prideful that, if the little girl got touched, or don't talk about it, that was your uncle. We don't want to put him in prison, right? So we're dealing with so much trauma. If you just look at society today, we're dealing with so much mental trauma and mental stress that we don't even acknowledge it. We don't even acknowledge it as trauma or stress or issues. It's just, that's the norm, right? But it's not the norm. And the reason why it's the norm is because we're not allowed to speak up. We're not allowed to express. And then when we do explode, all eyes on us, right? Like Tupac says, all eyes on us. That's because we're never allowed to filter out. We're never allowed to express. We're never allowed to talk about these deep-rooted issues in our community and our families, these traumas that we face as children, these abuse that we face, the discrimination, the hate, the race, right? All of these things, we put them out, but we're not really dialoguing and expressing. We know about it, but we're not really getting into it and saying, okay, individually, hey, Corey, how you doing? How did you deal with, the trauma as growing up in the child? Like me coming to the United States at a young age, my biggest discrimination was Black American versus Haitian, right? So I faced a lot of trauma from that. But then I also had to face the trauma of leaving the country, coming here on a boat and being in a whole different country and not even speaking the language or understanding, right? So there was a lot of trauma, but I never sat down with a psychologist or a therapist and said, hey, how did this impact you? How did this impact you in school? Why was your grade slipping, right? So I think it's definitely detrimental that we actually take the time to really dissect some of these issues, because I believe that we have a lot to unravel and release, because the Black man and the Black woman, we're holding a lot on our shoulders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would definitely, man. I would say that one of the traumas that we so often have, and it's probably the most taboo trauma that we have, is that we don't really understand how much like our parents we truly are.
Right.
And we have built-in resentment for several different reasons. I've never met anybody that just didn't have some type of, baggage from their parents that they spent the most time with. And I think what's really important, and I think that's when I went to counseling. They start at your family. What was your family dynamic? What child were you? And what birth order?
Yeah.
What and all of these different dynamics. And what was your father like? What was your mother like? And so I think that's one of the bases is that I think that for me, my biggest wow moment when it came to my mental health as it pertains to me growing up from being a child to now is that me just understanding and accepting what I got from my mother and my father, the great things, to ride on those and love myself for those, but also love myself for the stuff that's not so good that I picked up. It's not that you can't love yourself or you're any less because you accept the negative things that you pulled from your childhood.
Yeah.
You're still that same person, but you have to be aware to be able to move forward.
I agree.
Yep.
The
Agree.
segue behind that, because I think even in the African American community, so many times we try to get our young men to be men before they're actually men. While they're boys, we're so busy saying you can't cry, you can't do this.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
that girls do that. Boys don't do that. And then we begin to compare when they're just a child trying to show some type of emotion and expressing themselves. And so it's one thing to show your emotion and look for a mother or a father to kind of coddle you or pay attention to you. But it's another thing to say that, hold on, at 5 years old, you telling me I got to man up and I can't have a discussion with you. So I would say, with piggybacking off of that, what would you say to the youth that are now between the ages of, and let's just say 5 and up? Because I don't think that we give them the opportunity to be sensitive. We're so busy desensitizing them, trying to make them man up at a young age that they don't get to enjoy childhood. They have these heavy weights on their shoulders. What would you say to the fathers that are out there listening, whether you're a father or not, but maybe some experiences that you have had in growing up with being an African American male?
Toxic masculinity. Oh, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'll chime in on this. So the first question was, what would you say to the kids and then to the adults, right? I personally think that they should be just directed to the parents, right? Because the kids don't really have a say in this situation, right? Because whatever is being pressed down, shaken together by the parents is what it's going to be, right? So for me, is the message to the parents is allow kids to be kids. Allow them to enjoy their youth, allow them to be free and be kids, because that age that you just specified, that 5, this is the most creative time of their life. This is when they become the sponge. This is where they're going to be the smartest, the highest IQ, whatever they're going to accumulate and gain to grow from and create a foundation from is at that crucial point. And unfortunately, there's stats and research proven that at 8 years old, you get that, well, not 8 years old, at 5 years old, you get that first no. You get that first, you can't do it. You get that first, no, you can't do that, or you can't do this. You broke down the kid's psyche, you broke down the kid's imagination of saying, I can excel as high as this. And then we have to stop limiting these kids as far as what they feel like they can do and what they can excel. Because just because in your life or in your mind it's limited, does not mean you put a ceiling on the kid. You don't put a ceiling on them, right? So, and then again, we talk about generational curses or generational things. We're passing our generational failures down to our kids.
Yes.
We, as parents, we're passing down our limitations, our generational failures, and we're passing them down. And, we have to give these kids an opportunity to have a fair chance to become who they're going to be. If I did, before I transition allow one of these other guys to speak, if I give you a clear example, a man, like you were saying, shut up, man up, don't cry, don't express, right? So we're never taught to express. Then I meet Krystal at 18, and Krystal is so fine, and I want to date Krystal. And hey, what's up, Krystal? The same thing that Krystal was taught to do her whole life: cater, care, talk, express. Oh, what's wrong, baby girl? All these things. Now Krystal demands that at me at 18. How am I going to fulfill Krystal's need at 18 when my whole life I was taught to not communicate, not express, not to do any of these things? But the moment I meet Krystal, I'm expected to do all of these things that were never embedded in me, which is already setting me up as a handicap, right? So I'm not going to be a good communicator with the women. So that's going to impact my relationships, right? So we're not understanding that we're not allowing these boys to express and to speak up. We're handicapping them in the long run in a lot of different avenues. We live in a world where we don't even have social communication anymore. Everybody's staying at home. Nobody even plays outside anymore, right? So all of these things are going to have an impact on how we deal with soft skills in the working world, how we deal with relationships. I believe these things will show in our relationships day to day.
Anybody else?
As a father, I think that I always encourage my babies. I have a 16-month-old. I have 11-year-old, and I have 13-year-old, 11-year-old, 13-year-old boy. And my daughter, my son is a little bit more reserved. He's a jock. He plays ball really well. He plays basketball super smart. But my little girl Chloe, she is very, very articulate, and she's a person. I think that's because as she came up, I always made a point to ask her intentional questions from the point where she started formulating, words up until now. And so me asking her questions and then not picking apart her answers, but asking her another question based on where that linear question, questioning from my standpoint gave her the confidence to say, have a voice. So now when I ask her things, I mean, she has an opinion. She has an opinion about, the coronavirus and how it's affecting her and how it's affecting her friends. She has a voice for other people. So when she's in situations where she could choose to not say something when somebody's being treated a certain kind of way in her classroom, she chooses to say something because she knows she has a voice. She knows that she can respectfully disagree with her teacher.
Right.
And that's a part of her learning. That's a part of her creating. So I've always taught my kids to create thoughts. If you don't create anything else, create your own mindset and create questions based on everything that you don't understand, or even things that you do understand that you may want more clarification on. Speak your mind, do it respectfully, always, but always create something. That's kind of like my blanket statement, is create something. Yeah. But more importantly, create your words, create your thoughts, create questions for enlightenment, So that's what I would say to the parents and the kids is that, and the thing is that I would also say like what was said before, is that the parents kind of have this parental authoritative type of power over kids, and that's not how it should be. It should be more to be able to bring a kid up with that type of confidence. It can't be always an authoritative, you do what I say type situation. I want kids to be able to explain to me they have to explain to me in a very concise way how it makes sense for what you want to do. We can talk about it. I don't want to shut you down. If I told you know about something, let's talk about why you think that we should talk about it again. If I've already decided it's not a good idea, let's have that conversation. And I mean, it has its drawbacks. I mean, because you have a kid that always thinks that they can say something, but I would rather them be the person that will grow up being the person that will speak their truth than to be that 18-year-old that can't speak to the love of possibly the love of their life, the woman the Krystal that they may spend the rest of their life with. So that's my take on it.
I do understand before you speak, Imorja, piggybacking off of Corey, what you're saying, because sometimes we're so busy telling our kids what they're going to do, we don't allow them to become the person that God has created them to become, because we're so busy boxing them in. So all of the stuff that they have on the inside, they may be the next this, and you telling them no, they need to be a lawyer or a teacher, and they may be the next Michelle Obama or the next Barack Obama. But because you box them in, they have now this fear that is causing them not to be able to step out. Go ahead, Emorsha, because I don't want to get too long with it on that.
It's funny because you actually made me change my response, and my response now is going to be, so if I think, I took a class and we discussed like different generations and how they pretty much operate, like going back to, of course they have like latch keys and Generation X and all this other stuff, whatever.
Right.
But my thing is, I think there was a time, just from reading and also from observing, where parents, of course, would tell the children what to do, which is, of course, we know what the Bible says: honor thy father and thy mother, and thy days shall be longer. But when doing that, there were some families who did not, of course, give their children a chance to talk or to express, do what I say. And now we're getting to a point where, children are still respectful, at least they should be, but children are still respectful to the point, and then they know that their parents are still in charge. But I think, I'm not a parent, but just being a godparent, but giving them a chance, I have to echo what Corey said, giving them a chance to speak, because what happens is, for example, if we don't give our children a chance to speak, they can end up resenting us when they get older. And then once they realize that they could have been a lawyer, but you pushed them to do, football, because that is what masculine men do. That is what men do. We play sports because we do that naturally. Some things are just natural for the African-American person. There's sports, there's music, and of course, now that goes with rap, that goes with singing. Those things come natural. And sometimes we pigeonhole ourselves into doing those things because it comes easily, when in fact, we could be the next, world-class engineer. But because we weren't given the space to explore that, we're only given the option of doing two things. And sometimes that can also fall under the category of toxic masculinity.
Yes, it can.
And that can destroy a male. And I'm sure it can destroy a female as well too, especially when you don't have that support. And but of course, that mindset comes from our parents' generation. Where there was, the man at the house, and there was the mother. The mother, she stayed at home. The man, he worked. He pretty much, he set the rules. You followed those rules. And so that mindset carried to the next generation. But I think now that we have more resources as African American, just as people in general, but specifically the African American community, we have more resources where we can allow our boundaries to be expanded. We don't have to just say we can do these two things and call it a day. Somebody can be the next Condoleezza Rice. Somebody can be the next Obama. Somebody can be the next, anesthesiologist. We have options. And I think that we have to just make sure that we keep the door open.
Right. I think, to piggyback off of you, that also there's an issue with us not really sitting some of our children down and having that one-on-one conversation to see where their mind is. Some have gotten so caught up in this era of internet and everything else that these children don't get to have full discussions. So when you come in the house, you pretty much microwave. Mom is on her phone, dad is on his phone, and that's for those who have two-parent homes. What about for those that only have one parent in the home? Because I grew up with a single mom. Some have a single father. So you have those, those homes that are, what society would say they're crazy. They would say that those are the norm right now. When it comes to those type of homes, and you don't even at least have one person coming to talk to you, where some, depending on who's in the home, you may have communication. But some parents nowadays don't say, okay, now it's time to have dinner. Let's have a seat and put those phones up. I know something that was very key for me with growing up and raising my children is I make them put the phones down when it's time to have a conversation after school, when we sit down to eat. Some parents don't do that anymore. They don't have dinner at the table together. They let Tom, Joey, Steve, or whoever it is, they go in the room. They got their plate, they in the room, and then they're not having a conversation. So this is one of the issues that is caused, and this goes into the next area of what I'm about to say. They have these issues where they have these issues where they don't communicate with their kids, and then now we've had kids that have been suicidal in schools, and they've caused, or we've seen the number climb to a high, a very high height with the children, because now the parents are not talking to them. Nobody really knows what's going on in their mind. Nobody knows what they're really battling with. Social bullying,
Yeah.
internet bullying. We got all of this different stuff that is happening. And so this is the African American male in our society. So now let me take the women out of this. But when it comes to the African American male, we've seen this this issue with mental health, especially with the suicide rate. It has climbed to a very high level. And that is not only with the children, that's also with the men that have businesses, that are pastors, that are leaders, that
Yeah.
are in different places, because they don't have individuals that they can say, this is my group. Let me call my fellas. Let me call some of my friends. Let me call some of my homeboys, whatever they call it. They don't have that group of men to sit down and talk or discuss, because there's so much other things going on, or that may seem like I'm being a wimp. It may
Yeah.
seem like, you know, I can't handle this. Oh, or I don't want everybody to know that I'm having these issues. I don't want
Mhm.
everyone to see me as um someone that needs to have a discussion, because some people think that that means that they're showing a sign of weakness. What do you now, with being in the different areas that you men are in? I know we targeted the kids, but I'm about to jump to the men, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth from different age groups, but I want to target everyone. And so when you begin to see a leader, someone that's of your that comes from your background, whether it's a pastor, whether it's in real estate, whether it's a speaker, whether it's a singer, no matter who they are, when they begin to have these issues and feel like, but I don't have friends that I could talk to, or that seems, and you know, people have this thing, especially in the African American community, they'll say, well, that seems gay. And I don't understand, where do we get that type of mindset from? But these are the words, and this is the verbiage, because some people don't like to
Yeah.
be real, and I'm gonna be real
Yeah,
because
of course.
I no other way. How do you begin to talk to them about that in order for them to shake this thing off? Because it's not a certain type of man that gets counseling. It's not a certain type of man that needs counseling, because if you're the next one on the news because you were battling with something and you didn't get to address the issue, now was that meaning because you were weak or something? No. So
Yeah.
I'll let you guys
I
piggyback off
think I think you said you said so much, and just for the benefit of
of
the audience. No, you're good. You're good. But for the benefit of the audience, I want to make sure I tackle a little bit of everything, so that way nothing seems wasted, right? So if we're gonna have a good dialogue and we're all gonna eat, you don't want to waste your vegetables. And you
right.
had a lot of good stuff on the table, right? So we're gonna go back to the busy parents real quick, right? You know, with the phones and the distractions, right? So we got to think about psychological warfare and great marketing tactics, right? So you have to think about that, right? So when you think about marketing, when you think about addictive behavior and learning what makes somebody addictive, like coffee and then social media and these different things, and then when you populate how many hours we spend on these things, these are intentional. If you ever notice the way that they market to our youth, right? Again, back to the two avenues, they're gonna only market that our millionaires and our only way out of our streets is entertainer or sports. So they take a whole large amount of us and they try to put us through these two little small funnels, right? And they psychologically force into these two funnels. But what if I told you 95% of Black millionaires are in business, or are in real estate, or are in tech, or are in these things? But do you see a real estate like Corey guy, Black guy on TV? Do you see they marketing that guy? No. Are you gonna see somebody that's doing this in this business or in tech? Are you going to see that Black guy in the suit? Are they going to market that guy? No. I always use this when I'm telling a story. I say, in my neighborhood, when I was growing up, these were the three successful men that I knew. You were either the gangster, you were the mechanic, or you were the pimp. This was
Mechanic.
my ceiling. Let's be real. These were my ceiling. This was my cap. My dad never wore a suit. My dad then they do a real good job. So we got to go back before Black Wall Street when they started separating us from certain neighborhoods. And then we talk about redlining and all of these different things where now then we go back into the 90s where we pass laws where if you do this, you go to prison. If you do this, you go to prison with the Clinton administration, right? So they're removing the Black man from the equation. Then the Black mother has double the burden. Now the Black mother's working twice as hard and working 2 jobs. So who is really policing the young Black children? Where are they getting the information from? Then here comes the age of technology, where now when there's nobody there to give them information, only social media and only technology is providing them all of their information. We're not even there enough to give them the information, right? And then when we are there enough, we've worked so hard, but we just need a minute to breathe. We just need a minute to watch our soap. So just to, oh my God, I just can't take it no more. That is intentional.
That's good.
We have to understand that is intentional. So although I do want to put a lot of the blame on the parent, but I understand the system too.
Right.
I also have to I want to say, why don't you sit down and talk to your kids? I would love to say that. It is true. We have to hold the parents accountable. But unfortunately, a lot of us don't have the higher education, don't have the time, don't have the luxury, right? We're working 2 jobs, we don't have the men in the home. And a lot of these, we don't have certain luxuries that other communities have. Let's be real. If we're going to look at it from a clear lens, then let's look at it from the full scope of the situation, right? So it's not fair, but it is, you have to understand who you're dealing against and what boundaries and what hurdles that they're already putting ahead of you before you could even make it to the dinner table and have that conversation. Say, everybody listen down. When we think about the 90s, I had Family Matters, I had Good Times, I had the Jeffersons, I had this, I had that. I had shows that showed me a father and a mother at all times. Some of them had hard times, some of them had good times, but I had that agenda. Can anybody show me anything on TV today that they are pushing to our family and to our kids that resonates or even come close to simulating a Black family that is a unit and together?
Only show I can think of now.
Is what Blackish? Please don't say Blackish. Please don't say Blackish.
Okay, well, class close enough.
Please don't say Black guy. But you see my point though, right?
Yeah.
But again, pushing the agenda, we have to understand that we're humans. We learn through our 5 senses. The 2 major ones we learn through is listening and seeing. Ask yourself this question before we start judging everything. What are we seeing and listening to every day that's filtering through our emotions every single day? Think about it. That is great marketing. When your kid is driving down, when you're driving I-95, they put that big red MM and it's very bright. Ooh, McDonald's. There's a reason why we use bright colors. We use certain type of things to attract people. What are they filtering to us each and every single day? What, Bad Girls Club, this, that. Let's be real. Real Housewife this, or you can do all females are bees and all of this. Think about the underlying messages. And we're filtering this every day. And whatever you put in, eventually must come out. Sorry to be so long-winded.
Oh, that's okay. The next person that want to chime up, come back in on that. And the question was really gearing towards individuals that are in different arenas, no matter who you are, pastor, leader, just a regular 9-to-5 worker, an artist, a real estate agent, a speaker, as an African-American man facing all of these different issues. How do you address that when they say, you trying to get someone to have a conversation with, that means that you could be weak. That means that you are not.
That's the judgment, right? Isn't that goes back to that whole judgment concept, right? Because if I'm a pastor and then you're looking at me from this one lens, because I got to be perfect as a pastor, right? Because we put them on this we put them on this pedestal that they really shouldn't be on. The only perfection is God and Jesus. But as humans, we do this, right? We put them on this pedestal, and when they fall, we get mad, right? When they're weak, they're not allowed to be weak. But the Bible says when he is weak, we are made strong. I mean, when we are weak, he is made strong. Our strength only comes through him, right? We understand that the only perfect one is God. We're striving for perfection, but it says the holiest man falls 7 times, right? So we understand the Bible. We understand that God always picks the worst of the worst, and then his power is shown through the conversion, the Damascus experience, how he can change us and make us a better person. Take from Saul to Paul, from a murderer to a saint. Take David from a murderer to a saint, right? So this is the power of God, but yet we know this Bible, we know these authors, but yet when our own in today's society falls, we're not allowed to be able to say it's okay.
Right.
We don't have that. It's okay. You're allowed to fail. We have it in business though, because in business we preach that, oh, you got to fall a lot before you make it to success. But in day-to-day life, we don't have that. It's all right to be weak. It's okay to fail. It's okay to come talk to me, and because then, like you said, we're weak, or we can't share, or we're gonna be judged, or before you know it, our business is going throughout the whole congregation, or it's going throughout everybody at work. Is we have to allow people, we have to allow them to be weak. We have to allow people to be vulnerable. We have to allow people to express themselves without being just to be human.
Right.
Let people
So
be human.
One platform that well, I guess for me, most of the guys that I'm around, yeah, I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Most of the guys I'm around, we try to remind each other that we need each other, right?
That's great.
And the reason why that's so important is because, you know, being a masculine man, being a manly man, I think that's the allure of a man. That's what I take pride in that. I take pride in one being able to fix something. You get what I'm saying? I take pride in being able to solve a problem for somebody that may not have the same physical capability that I do, or just to have the wherewithal to even try, right? So I take pride in that. That's something I don't even have to think about. It's inherent. And so it's important to be around other men that understand that, like, there's a whole polar opposite to that. There's this big strong man that sometimes I want to cry, you know, and sometimes like, literally for me, I can watch a movie, I can watch anything, and I see somebody win, or I see somebody.
I start crying like a fat baby.
Oh, listen, I cry.
Loving somebody well.
I'm right there.
Little
I'm
Giant,
crying like a baby.
Mighty Ducks. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, let me watch those movies now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, I can watch a cartoon and I can see something beautiful, a message that's
Yeah.
beautiful for my children, and I'm crying. But then also on the other side of the table, when it's time to when I've had family members pass away, when I see myself, I can feel myself being my most masculine self, and not that I'm not grieving. Well, that's another point I wanted to bring up. But I feel myself naturally, not forcing myself, but just naturally being stronger when I know that other people are weak in that moment. Just because I not that I'm faking it, or I'm trying to, be something that I'm not, or, fool myself out of what I actually feel. It's just that I know I'm needed. So as a man, I need to step up to the role and be strong in this moment. So my point is we have, as men, we have to, if we don't already know, we have to figure out and understand and internalize that we have to have a village of men around us that we can be transparent with, vulnerable. I need men around me that I can say, hey man, I'm thinking about going and sleeping with a woman. You get what I'm saying? In this moment, I'm feeling this way. Hey man, talk me out of this. You get what I'm saying? I'm thinking about making this career move, and I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid that I'm a fail. I need to be able to go to my village and say, hey man, what do y'all think? Or tell me I can do this. Give me some energy. And some of those things can only come from a man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your village, and the only reason I say that, not to say that our women can't pour into us or anything like that. What I mean is that we see men see so much affirmation in our women that sometimes we're intimidated by coming to you and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Because sometimes, I mean, even if you mean it or not, the answer sometimes is just a little bit hard to swallow. And we don't want to seem weak. We don't want to seem less than capable. Not weak, but less than capable. We want to be a superhero to our women, and that's all a part of being a man. So I think that as Black men, we have to find our village. We have to seek them, not just say, hey, I want a mentor. No, you have to find a brother that you find some kind of admiration for him. You go to him and say, hey, look, brother, can I call you on Tuesdays and Thursdays and talk to you for 30 minutes about my life? Are you willing to do that? Are you in a position in your life where you can pour into mine? And maybe if I have something to offer, you know, I can do the same. Or come to them in the opposite. Hey, I have this skill. I'm in real estate. I can teach you every single way to, you know, acquire property or dispose of property. In return, can you talk to me about my life? Because I see some things in your life and where you are that I want to be. And that's being humble. That's being dying to yourself so you can understand life better. Because this is the thing. The cheat code to life is to find somebody that already did it. So if you can find somebody that's somewhere where you might want to be, you can go to them and get so much of the knowledge. My mentors in real estate, I wouldn't know. And without my associations in real estate, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to solve these problems. If I don't know something, there are 30 people I can call right now. And if I'm going to do that in real estate, I got to do it in life.
Man, that is, you said a lot. And it's funny, I actually want to tag on to something. You mentioned something about being strong whenever people die. And I've had this conversation with people because I've always heard people say, yo, I got to be strong for everybody. Okay, everybody like falling apart. Like, I got to be strong. And I always ask the question, how in the world can one person be strong for 100 family members? So, but I first want to dissect what the word strong means. So to you personally, what does it mean to be strong for them?
Well, to be strong for me, man, you know what, honestly, I'm glad you asked me this question. This is the perfect platform, and you know what I'm saying? You know, bear with me. I don't know what's gonna happen right now, but today,
I don't either.
Today marks the 10-year anniversary of my mom passing. The day I moved to Texas. So 10 years ago, my mother passed away eating at a restaurant. She aspirated on her food, choked on her food, and I actually didn't know she was gone for 7 days, right? So literally, I'll run that back by you. She passed away on like an afternoon, and I was moving to Texas. I was literally on the freeway coming to Texas. I talked to her. She went to a restaurant, died. And me, in the haste of me moving my whole family, I had the biggest U-Haul. You know, I mean, it wasn't normal for me to talk to mom every day, right? And so she passed away at the restaurant, and some people, I mean, drop the ball is not even the phrase that I can even use, but I wasn't contacted. And so anyway, so today is that day. But strong, in that situation, I'll use that as an example. It was not like I was strong. It wasn't that I was strong, but what I was strong is my awareness and where God was going to place me in that position. He placed me in a position to move my family, move my children to Texas from Arkansas, which they are excelling in. My daughter, you know, she competes, you know, cheerleading on a national level. They excel so far beyond where they would be if they were in Little Rock or Hot Springs, Arkansas. God was so intentional in my life that was my strength. You get what I'm saying? I understood. It wasn't that I was strong. I just had a better understanding of what God was placing me and what my mission was ongoing. And so I think that's the strength that, for me, that's the strength that you're asking about. It's strength cloaked in my ability to be able to trust God in the most desperate, you know, the most confusing moments in my life. And so that's what it is. And so when my son looks at me and he says, Dad, you know, like, you know, well, why aren't you crying? It's like, well, son, you got to understand where Lala is.
Come on.
Daughter, you got to understand where she is. You know, she's with God. She's in the kingdom. See, all the promises, everything, you know, Golden Crown was one of our favorite songs. We sung it together in unison. Boy, you know it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We sung that song with my grandfather, you know, and it talks about what it looks like to be born again, you know, to go to that place. And so that's the strength for me, is understanding that God is going to put you in where you're supposed to be exactly, even if it's like hell.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. And I said that because whenever people think of the word strong, they tend to think of lack of emotion. And they just walk around as if nothing bothers them. Not saying this is your case, this is from what I've experienced. And what happens is we tend to sweep those weaker emotions under the rug. And we tend to forget about them and leave them there. And then what ends up happening is we don't know how to deal with them. And so then whenever things happen, we get strong again. And then sometimes we get so strong that we get a hard exterior and also interior as well too. And then that also plays into our relationships outside of that particular situation. So it may be hard for us. I think that goes back to what we're talking about earlier. It's hard for us to be vulnerable because we're being strong. It's hard for us to, to maybe meet the needs of our spouse or whatever because we're trying to be strong. And it's just, strong can mean different things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One thing I want to say real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Mourning is really important. I don't think that in our community we know how to mourn. It's not just mourning death. It's mourning the ending of a relationship that broke your heart. Mourning things that don't work out how they're supposed to. You get what I'm saying? Like that you had a path in life and it changed. So and I think honestly, man, that comes back to, you having people in your life that can feed into you, that's been there, that can talk to you about these things, that can give you those moments. So go ahead, Chris.
I want to, I just want to say this. Working in the jail facility, because that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I identified a lot of things that you guys said, and it deals with emotions. And a lot of people don't know this is why some of our men go and do some of the things that they do, because people have told them to bottle up these different emotions. They've told them that, it's going to be all right. All you got to do is be strong, when they really just needed somebody to conversate with. They really just needed somebody that would hear them out so that they would not make the wrong decision. You ever had a situation, and I'm not asking a question, but I'm actually putting a question in here. Yeah. This is just a thought for somebody to sit there and think about. You ever had a situation where you went through something so bad and you really just needed to release that off of your chest so you don't go and do something wrong? And then by you not having somebody that was there for you to release to, it caused you to do something that you later on regretted. I've had several inmates when I worked at the Broward County Main Jail and many other jails throughout Fort Lauderdale. I've had many inmates that had different situations that they were battling when it came to not having people to talk to, not having people to listen to them. Sometimes they don't even need you to respond. They only needed somebody that would just really sit and listen to them. And that in the midst of them not having that person to listen to them, or that father or that mother, because sometimes mothers can be really rude and strong because they feel like, well, I'm not the man, so I got to be a little tough. I got to give them tough love. And sometimes that comes out of women as well, because they feel like if I be too soft on him, they say he'll be a punk. Come on now, these are words that we use for real. And so you got to realize that some of these women, they end up being too hard on their sons, or they end up making them feel like they got to be grown and take care of them at young ages, because I've even had young inmates. I'm going somewhere, hold on. And I'm gonna ask be a question come out of this, but I just want y'all to think about this for a second. I've had young inmates that were at least 15 in the main jail because they have a young teenage unit where they start charging them as adults. Either they're going to go to trial because they committed a certain amount of crimes, or maybe that one crime they committed, they're going to be tried as an adult, so they put them there. And so what has happened is I've seen some of them come in that jail facility, and they would have where their moms, or they would tell their moms, I'm going to go bust this lick, or I'm going to go do this. And mom would be cool with it because it's okay that you're going to come back and pay my bills. It's okay that you're going to give me the money that is needed for something else that I got to do. this is actually getting ready to ruin my child's whole life? Or what if my child, like, I don't know if you guys seen that little letter that went around a long time ago where we used to pass it around on social media, where the guy that ended up getting injected, lethal injection, because he said to his mom in a letter stating, Mom, he said, remember the time where you would just root on me? And he said in those words, I'm just kind of paraphrasing. He said, remember in those times where you would root me on and cause me to go and rob and steal, and you would just take the things that I go and steal. You never told me that I should have not done it. And so in the midst of that, this child later came an adult who continued to steal and rob and end up killing some people, which later on had to end up getting lethal injection. And now we're going somewhere, because we're going to talk about what's happening in society today as well. But I want to slow down right here. These men are sometimes only looking for a conversation, someone to hear them out, to tell them, you know what, don't go down that road. I need for you to hang in there and know that you can get through this and see a change. But you got to first be embedded to understand that you have the ability. And this is one of the reasons why God allowed me to do this, the renewing of the mind, because some people don't understand that they have the ability to change. When it comes to transformation, many of us have been through many different things. And so you may have that young boy that's still sitting in the hood that's smoking on weed, or he's on the block selling, or you may have that young man that's looking for a dad because he feel like, I didn't have my dad, that one had his dad, and I want that love, that attention. And so you got some stuff that is going on out here. Can y'all go to depth on that conversation? Because we got young men in jail facilities because their dad is not there, or their moms have been too tough, or they had some situations or are dealing with current situations that they don't believe that they can transform from. But if we can get to this mindset, this mental, these thoughts, and get some men to start stepping up to address that situation, because you still even, oh my God, I'll save the rest because I want to say some other stuff, but. So the jail facility. I know
what I tend to hear a lot of, I hear from a lot of people, they always say, well, I have trust issues. Okay, we all got them. Okay, cool, yeah, whatever. And I think people use that as a blanket for reasons as to why they don't want to open up. But if I'll be completely honest, a lot of it is just a chance. You got to just take a chance. But your heart will tell you, at least if you, discernment will tell you who you can open up to. Because that's, of course, you want to be careful with who you tell your business to, because especially if it's personal, you don't want anybody else to know. You don't want it to change the way that people look at you. And it's just one of those things that it's the beginning of what could be something beautiful. But once we get past the whole idea of trust issue, I do believe that men can afford themselves to be vulnerable with other men and be okay. Like going back to what Corey said earlier, is just having that village, but you have to actually make the move.
I'll use my life experience to try to answer this one. Like, for me, it was tough because, again, I didn't grow up with a mother. I only grew up with a father. My father raised me till I was 15 years old. So my mother was not in my life. It was just my dad. Because I came here on a boat at a real young age at 6 from Haiti, and my mom was left behind in Haiti. She never made it to the United States. I could remember trusting people was hard because, again, my biggest enemy was my Black counterpart. My biggest enemy was the Black American. That was my biggest enemy. By the time I was 15 years old, I was stabbed twice and shot twice by the Black American. By the time I was just 15 years old, right? So I'm stabbed twice, shot twice. I remember one time I was getting jumped by these 3 guys, and I had 2 homeboys behind me. And instead of them jumping and helping me fight these other guys, they're rooting me on, talking about, you got him, you got him. And that fight, I got stabbed twice in that fight and got hit across the head with a baseball bat, right? So that means I don't trust my friends. Then I don't trust them, right? So because I'm like, y'all were there, y'all didn't even jump in the fight. And then when we're talking about incarceration, I've been there. There was a time in my life where I was facing 50 years in prison. Been there, done that. And then I actually went to prison. And when Corey was speaking, I just held a stern face because I remember 3 months before I get released out of prison, I get a letter. The only letter I got while I was in prison, and the letter stated that your mom just passed away of cancer. Now, you get into the prison system, the first thing they tell you when you get to the main, first time you come in prison, your mama gonna die, and you just listen to all this rap. Somebody else is gonna die. And you listen to all this rap, right? And then 3 months before you get out, you got this aspiration. I'm gonna go to Haiti. I'm gonna go visit my mom. I'm gonna take my kids to go see my mom. My kids never met my mom, and you're making all these plans right before you get out. Then you get this letter that your mom died. And when Corey was saying, it's not that you try to be tough in these situations. It's just something. I jumped out of my bunk. I used to do Bible study. I jumped out of my bunk that night, and I probably preached the greatest message I will ever preach in my life. And then all of the men around me cried for me, but I've yet to cry. They cried for me because I'm reading the letter to them, and they're like, "Oh, you know what? You don't have to have Bible study tonight, man. It's okay." And I'm like, "You know what? The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. If you think he's gonna choke me up, the devil is a lie. Not today, not today, because I'm gonna preach this message, and I'm gonna preach it. I'm preaching good too. Whatever, God's gonna work through this vessel one way, and it's I can't explain it. Like it's like Corey said, like that scripture. When I am weak, He's made strong. I can't explain it. I really can't explain it. But this strength that God can give us, and I know it's really hard to say. Who do you depend on? I didn't hear the word mentor. I never heard of the word mentor until I turned 30 years old. I'm 36 now. I just turned 36 last Monday. And the word mentor was something that was new to me at 30. Because my mentors were the dudes on the streets, the hustlers, the gangsters. Them dudes taught me how to survive. Because I started living my own at 15. So they taught me how to move. They taught me how to survive. They taught me how to fight. They taught me how to... I didn't know they were mentors, but they were teaching me strategic things in life. But as far as having somebody that you can invest your emotional side to, it was not an option for me. Because the life that I grew up in, you had to survive every day.
Yeah.
Remember, from 15 to 36, I've been living on my own. That's 21 years. So for me, my life has always been about survival mode. Now, with that being said, I really wish I had somebody that was more seasoned than me, that would have took me under their wings, that would have sought, look at that little shorty right there, and taught me better. Taught me better. And again, when I started this, I said, what I am. I'm a solution to my 16-year-old self. So I want to be that to the young version of me, because I know how valuable that is to be able to have somebody. It's like, cry. I don't care if you cry. Be expressive. Do whatever you got to do. Punch. You want to go to the boxing gym? Because I used to love the box. You want to go to the gym? Let's go get that in. Let's work that out. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Let's go work that out, right? Wear them out. Get them so tired where they just let it out, because, again, us Black boys were not allowed to be weak and cry. So I think that's one of the biggest injustice to our little Black boys is we're not allowing them to be weak, and it's okay. And just because you're expressive does not make you weak. And I think you were going somewhere with that earlier when you're saying when we hide these certain type of emotions and we become more callous in other areas, that makes you strong. That is not strength. True strength is the ability to show weakness and vulnerability when you feel it, and to be able to express that.
That's it.
That is it. You know how much strength it takes to be vulnerable? I could be tough all day. Do you understand how much I could be tough all day? Tell me to be weak and find how much tell somebody to be weak when they're really weak, and then you're gonna really find out where your strength lies. To be able to be vulnerable when you don't want to be vulnerable. That's where real strength lies.
Yeah. So I have a question, like, to even add on to that. So for some, and thank you for that too. How do you manage for someone? So going back to the whole grieving process, I think this is what I'm going to ask Corey as well too. So whenever you have that grieving process, is it, how can I say this? Because you made it through easier than I'll say easier, but you made it through that particular hurdle, maybe better than what you thought, you two could have done at that particular moment. Did you ever give yourself a chance to grieve?
That's a good question, man. I feel like grieving it doesn't have an expiration date. You know what I'm saying? So you really you just live it. You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. It all goes back to, you have to have some kind of foundational compass. You know what I'm saying? That you can always gravitate back to when things get like, confusing emotionally. I mean, emotions are confusing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you try to rationalize emotion and try to rationalize more. Like, you're trying to rationalize why somebody couldn't stay in your life that didn't do anything to have to go. You get what I'm saying? Some of the people are not with us anymore. You know what I'm saying? And we still praise them to the day. And why? And how? You know what I'm saying? How do we rationalize that hurt, that pain? We just keep on living. And we understand that we have to have a foundation. And the foundation comes back to the pillars of what we've been talking about. God, having a group of people that you can, fall back on, having just a basis of understanding about how faith should work. Fundamental faith.
To answer it from my point, my answer is strictly no. I've never had that time, right? Just a blunt no. And
you see, I'm sorry.
I just went from one struggle to the next. Yeah. I went from one struggle to the next struggle, 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 to the next struggle. There was no, buffer in between to be like, all right, take a minute, take a breather. All right, let's rehash this. Unfortunately for me, my life didn't give me those opportunities. It didn't give me those sparkling lights every now and then. You may have one trauma here, and then you may have another 5 years before you have another one. For me, it was a roller coaster of traumas, right? So no, so it was a no for me. Now, with that being said, what was the glue that kept me all together? Honest to goodness, man, it was strictly my faith. It was God and God on, and then half the time I was battling him. Half the time me and him were beefing.
That's good.
Yeah, we were beefing. Oh my God. Me and God, we beefed a lot. Like, we were beefing because when you don't have an understanding, you ask a lot of whys. Like, you don't understand why this is going on and why is that. Why don't I have a family? Why do I have to sleep under a bridge? Why do I have to eat out of a trash can? Why do I have to be going to high school and I'm breaking into my school just to shower every morning? You don't understand that, but I'm trying to keep a 4.0 GPA. I'm an all-star basketball player, but yet I'm breaking into Lake Worth Gym every morning just to shower. And I'm eating out of trash cans at nighttime. And you asking God, why? What did I do? But yet but somewhere deep inside of you, you can't lose faith in him, because without him, you don't know if you're gonna make it to tomorrow.
Come on.
Like, honest to goodness, bro, I wish I can give you a more sophisticated answer as a speaker. I don't have one. I don't have one. The only real answer I have is FAITH. I just held on to that to the best of my ability, and still today, that's the only thing I'm holding on to, and I refuse to let it go. If you ever see me without a shirt, I'm tatted up, and all my tats are Bible scriptures, faith, Bible scriptures, faith, Bible, because that's all I know, and it's gotten me this far, and I'm not gonna let go on where I know that's worked so far for me.
And that's good. Corey, you was about to say something else.
Well, no, I was just saying the level of transparency. See, you have to. The self-awareness is so vital in just overcoming anything. So you got to know, you know what I'm saying? You got to be confident in your failures and the hurts and stuff that you ain't even have. You got to take responsibility for stuff you had no power of even inflicting on. You know what I'm saying? You had no power over. You had no doing, you know what I'm saying, to yourself. You know, you have to take responsibility for stuff you didn't do.
That's good. Transparency, because that's something big that I stand on. Transparency and self-awareness. Why? Because so many people don't like to look at the man in the mirror. You can pinpoint everybody that has done you wrong. You can identify everything that has happened because of somebody else, but you never sit back and say, hold on, let me do a self-assessment. Is it something that I did or somewhere that I was that I could have prevented this situation from taking place? Some of us were so busy. Man, if my mama would have did this, if my daddy would have been in my life, if my this would have happened, if my that would have happened. And I've had those discussions with being in some of my lockdown units with some of my inmates, where they'll be like, dang, Deputy Jordan, you standing in here to have a whole, like I was standing there and have a whole conversation and listen to some of their minds because they already in lockdown. They got nothing but time to think. And you would be amazed at some of the things that be running through their thoughts, some of the things that they say, and some of the things that they want to really talk about. And so at the end of that, you be like, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And now this is a good segue, and I hear you over there, Corey. This is a good segue what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because even what's happening in society, we fail to understand that a lot of these issues, because one of the things that I heard somebody say, not this, I didn't have to say anything, but I felt the need to be one of those people that stepped up because it wasn't a form of hiding. Someone said that, where are all of the leaders? And I couldn't speak for everybody else because they say all of the leaders are hiding. And I had to tell them in one of my lives, I said, no, all of the leaders are not hiding. What some of us are really doing is analyzing what is happening right before our eyes before we open our mouths to speak. And this is why it's key in scripture that it says, be slow to speak and quick to listen. Why? Because your first response, you better come with some kind of strategy for these people. You better come with kind of leadership with knowing where you're taking them. Because as soon as you begin to open your mouth with a feel-good message, you better make sure that it's going to feel good with what's going to be the outcome. We got people marching and we got people taking stances, and I'm going into I'm just gonna voice my piece first, y'all. That we are not making sure that we're doing them with a good mindset. And it takes a village to make sure that these things be done right. That means that we have to lock arms. What are we doing? We're going out and we're protesting, and I get it. A lot of us as leaders said, you know what, let me go out and show them that I can protest too. Or let me just go out because I feel the need to protest, which is a good thing. But when we now protest, and this is not against anybody that's protested either. Let me make sure that I'm saying that. I'm not saying that it was wrong for you to protest. What I am saying is that now once the leaders, that the people that we're looking for as leaders, let's make that key. When they start stepping out there, what is the next move?
That is exactly right.
Out there as a leader, they want to know, okay, we done did this. Now what's the next step? Because we're following you.
I agree. Totally. And you know, quite frankly, I asked that same question. Being that my first protest was this Saturday, and I like I was saying before, you know, I joined Black Lives Matter right after that, and we had our meeting yesterday. So I asked him, I said, so now we protest. I said, whose attention are we trying to get? Are we trying to get, you know, the mayor's attention? Are we trying to get the police department's attention? Like, what is the strategy? So you're exactly right. And that's one thing that we have to, and I know that we're irate, we're aggravated, we're pissed off, for lack of a better term. But at this point, just like civil rights, these people, they had a strategy. They knew what they wanted. And of course, there are some people who know, like in Detroit, they were doing the looting, they were doing all these things, but they were trying to, I guess for so long, they were trying to voice their opinion and no one listened to them. So they felt like they had to take it into their own hands and do it this way. Like, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to burn down some stuff. So you have no choice but to listen to me. Now, there are different ways to go about it, but I'm like you, because at this point, we don't want to just protest just to be on TV. We don't want to just go viral. We want to make change. So I agree. There has to be something that comes after that footwork.
Anybody else want to piggyback off of
that? For me, when I did a live about this on Wednesday before all of this went to mayhem, and I really dislike how they pin us between just two options. I always say this: you're either going to be a king or you're going to be an ex. That's the only solutions that we have in today's society, right? Because that's the only thing that they force feed us and everything like that. And so again, they put in us to very two small funnels. They divide us amongst ourselves of which mindset we're going to be. You're going to be the militant or you're going to be the pacifist. Pick one, right? But both of them got shot. Both of them got shot dead, and both of them died at 39, right?
But they achieved what they needed to achieve at that time. The Bible says we live from faith to faith, right? So I mean, the faith that got you through yesterday is not going to get you through today. We have to renew our mind daily. You keep saying this, right? So that same mindset that got us this point is not the mindset that's going to get us further. There's only two things that I've noticed in American history that they comprehend. When they did slavery for one thing: economics, free labor, right? When they did the prison industrial system, they did it for one thing: economics, free labor, right? When they do anything that they do, watch it, and it always goes back to one thing: they need to focus it on economics. It has to be about financial growth. COVID, whatever you want to talk about, Amazon right now, because of COVID, they've gained over $500 billion in assets over the past 2 months. So everything is always tailored around economics. If we really want people to listen to us, there's two things we need to do. First of all, we need to handle the economic market. And then the black dollar, we don't understand the value of it and how much of it that we're really impacting. So we need to learn how to structure our black dollar and where we're going to invest it and hurt them, because then they're going to listen. They're going to listen when we start hurting them financially. Second, we have to start infiltrating a lot of these systems that are not working for us. We don't write any bills. We don't create any laws. We're not in the seats of the judges. We're not in the state attorney. We're not doing a lot of these things. We need to put ourselves in position to be the state attorney's office, to be the judge, to be writing bills, to be writing these things. We need to focus on the 2 and the 6 year term and not just the 4 year election. We need to do the census. We need to do all of these micro things that's going to reproduce these results. Because we can complain in 3 weeks from now. I promise you, all 4 of us are going to have a conversation, and all of this is going to be dead, because that's what we're good for. We start out fires and then they're going to blaze them out, because there's no progression, there's no plan. Like we're saying, every 2 years there's an election. Every 6 years we need to focus on the local stuff that's impacting our communities. Let's focus on these. If everybody in their own pocket, or like they say in New York, everybody in their own borough, focus on those small micro pockets of making sure the elections are focused on what we want, that we're implementing the people that we want. Over time, we're going to start seeing a change in the landscape. By changing the landscape, then we could start seeing the results. But until we start refocusing on saying, hey, that constitution that governs everything needs to be revamped, because just because we had the civil rights movement does not mean the Constitution was ever rewritten. And if you understand the Constitution, then you understand why we have no rights and nothing can happen.
Absolutely.
And nothing can happen.
That's good.
You made the greatest point, is that we have to be proactive instead of reactive.
Facts.
And so if we understand that we have to keep the same energy that we have when we see the man's name after a hashtag that we have before it even exists. It can't go away. The intensity can't ever go away. We have to keep that and apply it where it works, where it actually makes change. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's the voting every 2 years. Who are our senators? Who
Yep.
are our congressmen? Who represent us at the local level.
Yep.
And that's what's going to actually bring about real change. And yeah, that's just it.
That's good. Yeah. I want to say something in regards to that, because God began to deal with me about 3 pillars. And he began to deal with me about the judiciary and all 3 of those pillars, because we don't really pay attention to that as an African American community. So now I'm bringing the whole community in this conversation when I say this, because we don't get on this. Exactly. We getting ready. We don't end up talking about or having these conversations. Why? Because when it comes to the judiciary system, and when it comes to making sure who's in position, who's making these laws, we go back and we begin to analyze who's been in these positions for years. And so I think we kind of begin to scratch the surface on
50,
this
60 years
after this. And I would say after, and I really believe it started happening more after the movie came out. And I think I talked to you about this a little bit, Corey, the other day. When the movie Black Panther came out, we started really understanding our power as an African American people. Yeah. We began to start really paying attention to more things like, hold on, I can do this, I can do that. Of course, we knew it when Obama was in chair that, okay, we as individual, as a race, we can do different things. And as a president, we can do not only the presidency, but we can do more. But when it was something about when that Black Panther movie came out, and it was like, hold on, we got what? We can do what? And I don't know why it took place then, but it did. It began to wake people up to become business owners. It began to wake people up to understand their buying power. It began to wake people up as a community to know that, hold on, we got to get it together. Put our men back. Can our men start stepping back in position and being the fathers of these homes that they know they could be the fathers of, instead of belittling the women? And this is not to all men, but this is to some. Can now those that have been hiding or running around trying to not fess up to their responsibilities now be in position? And a responsibility doesn't have to be a child. It doesn't have to be, it can just be your position at the table to do what you were called to do. I think we limit that, and we limit our capability to understand what we have to do. With that being said, as you're leaving off, because we're getting ready to chime out of here, we've been on here for a while, and we actually been trying to get on here for a while, because I think we're going to return with this conversation as you all allow me to. If it's in your time, let me know. But as we leave off, what is it that you could tell someone with what's happening in society today, how to now go forward? What would be your words to leave them with? We're listening to the African American man's standpoint when it comes to mental health, when it comes to the society in 2020 right now, when it comes to how we're being boxed in as a people, as well as African American men, because I can't say we, that's y'all.
I'll let the brothers that have to jump off first go ahead and answer that question.
Give it to me one more time.
I said, as an African American, I see you anymore, so hold on one moment. Okay, as an African American male, what do you say now to those that are living in today's society? What can they do at this moment? What would you leave them with at this moment? We got writing.
I would leave my brothers and my sisters with, man, we can't fight at a united front without actually solving the problems that we have with each other. And we were talking about this before. It's like, hey, just because you have a completely different opinion than me, it doesn't mean I can't love you to death. I have, you know, some of my Black brothers that I totally respect that, you know, they are Trump supporters. I don't agree with it vehemently, but I'm going to disagree with him vehemently with emotion and all the vigor that I can give him to try to, you know what I'm saying, help him understand where I'm coming from and where so many other people are coming from. But I'm at the end of that conversation, I'm still up. And the other thing is that when we see that happening, we can't be so angry that if you see me loving somebody, regardless of what their views are, we can't be so angry that we attack each other because, you know, we sell it out or love is still the most superior solvent. You know what I'm saying? Love is like water. It can do everything. It can make anything happen. So I just implore my people to love each other more than your misunderstanding, more than your miscommunication, more than the differences. We're still all the same human. We're still all fighting the same fight. And also we need to recognize that there are a lot of white people that are fighting the same fight that we are. And they're out there. I see them out there trying to do the right thing, and we should definitely be conscious of that and factor in that. Hey, look, not every white person is in on the same agenda as some of those that are, you know, against what we are trying to attain. So just love, man. You know, even those people that are opposite, that have totally opposite views from you, and you know that totally don't see what we're trying to accomplish. We gotta figure out at the end of the day how to show a little love to them too, because it's like we talked about. Nothing is attained unless we have an open line of communication. If I know where you stand, I can talk to you about it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And if I'm not emotionally involved, that where you stand hurts me to my core, and I can't control that enough to have a verbal sparring of sorts and still come out on the end of that without blood being shed, then, you know what I'm saying, it's never going to be anything different than what it is right now. So
very true. And actually, I'm gonna piggyback off what Corey said. Honestly, I echo those same sentiments. But what I would tell any Black male at this particular point where we are in society is, if you are going to, if you want to make a change, be relentless, vigilant, but have a plan. And please have people who understand the vision, make it as plain as possible. If your vision get into is to get into the room where they make decisions when it comes down to, you know, your town's police force. If it's to meet with the mayor to share your ideas with what you believe will be perfect for change as it relates to your community, be very clear. Don't just go just to make racket.
Come
Go with
on.
a purpose. That's one of the main things I would tell anybody.
Facts. Facts. If I had to answer that question, I'm gonna give a hip hop analogy that all of us can relate to, right? So whether you're a blood, you're a crip, you're a folk, you're this, you're that, we all listen to hip hop, right? So you could be a blood and a crip, you're both in your house, but you're gonna listen to Tupac, or you're gonna listen to Biggie, you're gonna listen to somebody, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna give you 3 songs that can help. All right. First, we're gonna give you the Tupac changes. Listen to the lyrics word for word for word, and it's gonna give you perfect instructions. Then I'm gonna give you Nas, I Can. That
That's
Nas,
my
I
song
Can.
there.
See,
Yes.
that Nas, I Can is gonna build up your faith and your ability. So Tupac is gonna give you the strategy of what you need to do. Nas is gonna give you the faith factor to say, hey, you got this, you can do it. Now I want you to go listen to the Jay-Z 444, right? 444, right? Because what that Jay-Z 444 does is it gives you the business strategic moves of how to make this happen through the capital side of it, right? So Tupac is telling you, how can we build our community together? How we need to help eat up here? How we need to squash that beef that Corey was talking about? Nas is gonna tell you, you have the faith to be able to do it, and then Jay-Z is gonna be like, all right, now let me show you the business moves of how to make that happen. And once we're able to put all of these 3 things together and put our differences aside, we can do it. But on a real level, guys, truth be told is, we have to come together. In everything we say in unity there is strength. We brag about the MLKs, we brag about the X's. The reason why MLK and X was able to sit in a room, it's like the Crips and the Bloods. But they were still able to sit in the same room. Why? Because they knew that the objective was greater than the cause of what they believe in separately. Sometimes we have to put our separate beliefs aside. I don't care if you're Muslim, I don't care if you're Christian, I don't care if you're Buddhist, I don't care if you're that. But we have a common goal. And we have to put all of these little small side titles that we carry that has no weight or value to nobody else but us, and come together for a greater objective. And that's what a lot of these people were able to do. We have to be able to say, all right, what is the greater objective beyond my personal beliefs? Once we get to that point, then we can start building from there, because you have to have a foundation. Because a family that's divided amongst themselves will fall. And we're a family divided amongst each other in so many different aspects. But we have to say, listen, what do we want? We want change. How do we get change? These are the 2-3 steps to getting change. How do we got to come together to make it happen. This is the time, guys. This is 2020, the year of vision, the year of foresight, the year of intention. We have to be intentional with everything that we're going to do. And that's it. That's all I got.
One of the things I want to say as we get ready to chime up off of here is that if you have not been spirit led, if you don't follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, one of the greatest things you want to do is get in tune. Because the Holy Spirit, he never wrong. He's not going to lead you astray. When everything is going haywire, it's something that God does, and he gives us the ability to have wisdom. He gives us great discernment. A lot of people are losing sight or so frustrated, or like we first started off and started saying, they're moving by emotions. But when you put emotions to the side and you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you, then you begin to get in a position where you're able to end up in a place where you can speak out. Whatever your gifting is, you're able to use that and be able to stand on whatever platform that God has created for you. Because I think some of us have gotten so caught up in wanting a major platform that we forget whatever platform that God has gifted us with, that's the one he's gifted us to use, whether it's the airway, whether it's real estate, whether it's singing, whether it is, what platform do you have with the strategies that he is giving you in this hour that you can now captivate, you can now locate your area of expertise, and you can now express in a way that you're not causing there to be a riot, but express in a way that
Yeah.
you show forth something that Corey said was great is love. Show
Yeah.
forth your love and show forth your response and be responsible. When you're using your verbiage, be very, very wise in the way that you speak it. Help the people understand where it is you're taking them, like Emorja said. Then not only do that, make sure that you got the strategy is going to make sure it gets done. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain. He that hears will
Exactly.
run with it. Why?
Yep.
That's right.
Because we are writing this vision out. We're
Yep.
starting airways right now. Each one of us has a different background. Each one of us come from different things or have experienced different things, if not the same experiences in certain cases. But one thing I know, and I may not be a man, but I do understand my Black male counterparts in certain areas that
Yeah.
we need to make sure that our men are in position, women that we are in position, so that we can come together in a united front to make sure that all of this that is going on, that we're able to take it down, that we're able to stop it
Yeah.
and start at our foundation. We need a firm foundation. Wherever your foundation is rooted, that's where the rest of it is going to go. So a house that is built on the sand is going to sink, but one that's built on the rock, it's going to stand forever. So what we got to do is now we got to make sure that our foundation is built on rock. With that being said, I'm so thankful for you guys coming on, being available, and even allowing us to go past our time limit to speak about these things, because there's something that many need to hear about in this hour. But we're not only talkers, y'all, we're doers. So what are you going to do as we're passing the buck of information to you? What are you going to do with the responsibility that is now we're calling you out? We're not only being called out, but we're now also calling you all out. What are you doing on your platform with what you got? With that being said, God bless you all. I'm gonna close out in prayer. Lord Father God, I thank you now for allowing us to come on this live this afternoon or this evening. I thank you for covering our men, God. I thank you for covering them mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, educationally, oh God, in every area of the mindset, oh God, that they be not blocked, that they be not hindered, that they be not frustrated, oh God, but that they be firm in their foundation, that if they feel weak, oh God, that they know how to lean on you and get the help that's needed, oh God, so that they understand that when they say that they are weak, that in you they know that they are strong. I thank you that you give them the ability to stay girded and strengthened in your word like never before. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, and amen.
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 It's been well, and we're going to have a good night.
I love y'all, man.
Thank you. Love y'all too.
Yeah, boys, be blessed, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
Right.
All right, guys. All right. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Bye.